Okay, Twitter. It's a little awkward there, but okay. I think I am broadcasting in both places now via my computer, which is an okay plan B, I suppose. Oh, sorry everybody. What is it? 30, 40 minutes after we were supposed to start? Believe me, this was not as annoying for you as it was for me. I don't know what the deal is. I guess it's just that Mercury is in retrograde. We were trying a new way to do this, which had some potential, we thought, but the test worked out well, and then today was a fail. So sorry I'm looking in multiple places. I've got my computer doing, I'm going to get out of this Zoom call too, because I think that's going to help us, my computer, go any faster. So, all right. Apologies, everyone. We're here now. Let's go ahead and go. Hi, this is Caitlin. I'm MoveToAmend's National Director. I'm the host of this show that we do once a month, coming to you live from Sacramento, California, where I live, where it has been springtime. I think we're going to end February with 0 rain this month here in California, which is pretty problematic. It did feel like spring, though, today, especially when a young robin slammed into the window of the upstairs of my house, and I heard this thud. I ran, and then I saw all these feathers kind of flitting down. I thought maybe the folks who live upstairs had just thrown a bunch of feathers out the window, but then I saw some movement on the ground, and it was a young robin that had hit the window, which I don't think has ever happened before. It's a tinted window. I'm sort of surprised that it thought it was clear, but anyway, I was pretty worried. I picked her up, and there was like some blood on my hand. I thought she wasn't going to make it, but I looked on the internet, and it said to put the bird in a box and cover it, or a box with holes. I didn't really have one made quick that I could make quickly, so I just put like a dish towel over the top so that it could breathe, and I let it sit there for 20 minutes, and it was kind of like panting, and like I said, there was some blood, although I'm not totally sure where the blood was coming from, and I left it in there, and then after about 20 minutes, I heard it sort of rustling around, and my cat was starting to get interested in it, so I thought I better check and see, and I did. I took it outside, I opened the box, and it flew out and navigated around the fence and the house next door, so I think it's going to be fine. So, yay! So that's my story of goodness. Unrelated to MoveToAmend, but happy spring, it's almost here. So this is MoveToAmend's monthly live report. We do this on the last Wednesday of every month at 5 o'clock Pacific time, or 5:38 Pacific time if we have technical difficulties. We're on Facebook Live and Twitter too, and it looks like we're doing both, and it's actually working. We've got Anne and Alfonso here helping me, so if you have any questions along the way, either in Twitter or Facebook, you can tweet them to us, or just comment on this video on Facebook, and I will answer your questions at the end. They will make sure that I get them, and if you're tuning into the recording, you can also ask your questions, and somebody on our team will make sure you get an answer. MoveToAmend is the campaign to pass the We the People Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to make clear that corporations don't have constitutional rights and to get big money out of politics. So I'm here to share the exciting news and updates from February. Don't go anywhere, but while as I'm getting started here, you can help us out by retweeting this live stream using the hashtag MoveToAmend, hashtag LiveReport. So hashtag MoveToAmend, hashtag LiveReport for a chance to win a free t-shirt. At the end, we'll give a t-shirt to somebody who's tuning in and shares this link via Facebook, and somebody who does that via Twitter if you use the hashtag MoveToAmend. So please help us spread the word. And at the end of the show, I'll let you know who the winners are for helping us do that. We'll pick one winner from each platform. like I said, feel free to ask me questions at any point during this broadcast, and I will answer them at the end. So first, we're not going to be able to do our cool little clips in to show each of the segments, because I'm doing this the old-fashioned way on my phone and on my computer. So I'm just going to go through. First up is corporate rule news, and I'm happy that the impeachment circus is finally over. It turned out exactly as expected, with basically nothing doing despite the rampant high crimes and misdemeanors committed by Trump. The Senate acquitted him, making clear that the deep state of crisis we're in democracy-wise, and how desperately we need the We the People amendment. So the Dems really missed the boat by only pursuing impeachment light and focusing on probably his least egregious offense. And of course, the Republicans clearly think the Constitution is a joke at this point, and that they have no obligation to uphold it. So all of this ties back to dark money donors and large corporations and billionaires corrupting our process in every which way, including Trump himself and his corporations. One thing that we saw back in December when the House of Representatives was going to vote on the articles of impeachment, U.S. Rep. Billy Long from the 7th Congressional District of Missouri attended the debate, and he literally had cash sticking out of his pocket like a cartoon. I don't know who put it there. Maybe it was his own, but it was a funny image. Like somebody had just tucked it in there as he was going in to do his official duties. And then right after Trump was acquitted, Trump issued 7 pardons and 4 commutations. The highest profile acts of clemency all have one thing in common: Fox News. Fox himself said that he commuted the sentence of Illinois Governor Rod Blagojevich, who was in jail for 14 years for trying to sell Barack Obama's Senate seat after he became president, and extorting a children's hospital. We all know about Blagojevich. And Trump said that he, quote, watched Rod's wife on Fox News. Almost all the pardon recipients praised Trump themselves on Fox News and had their clemency pleas pushed by high-profile Fox celebrities close to Trump, or news personalities close to Trump. And for one of the people that he pardoned that didn't get on Fox to do it, Paul Pogue, a construction company owner who pleaded guilty to underpaying his taxes by $473,000 and received 3 years probation, was issued a full pardon and clemency by the president after his son, Ben Pogue, and Ben's wife, Ashley, contributed more than $200,000 to the Trump Victory Committee since last August, plus more to the Republican National Committee and to Donald Trump for President Incorporated. So that's lovely. Just going to show that Trump can get away with whatever he wants, apparently, and our Congress didn't hold him accountable for any of that, or, you know, any of the other issues like the sexual harassment of women and rape allegations, obviously jailing children. If you're having trouble on Facebook, you might want to tune in over on Twitter. Sounds like there are some issues for some folks, maybe, but if it's my internet trying to do both, apologies. We're kind of trying to do this a way that we ideally wouldn't. So I think Twitter's working fine. So if you're having trouble on Facebook, you can come to the MoveToAmend Twitter page, and that might work better for you. We also will record this, so you can also tune into the recording if you want to catch it. So anyway, Trump's obviously not the only one who thinks that money can buy everything. Michael Bloomberg, the 9th richest person on the planet, is attempting to purchase the Democratic nomination for president. So that way we'll have it on both sides. We don't usually weigh in on presidential candidates, but we have some on Bloomberg because this is just too ridiculous. In addition to all of the money that he's throwing all over the place, I also want to point out some of the things that should be illegal but somehow aren't. Bloomberg Bloomberg exploited prison labor to make 2020 presidential campaign phone calls through a third party. His campaign contracted New Jersey-based call center company Procom, which runs call centers in New Jersey and Oklahoma. And then people incarcerated at the Dr. Eddie Warrior Correctional Center, a minimum security women's prison, were making calls to California on behalf of Bloomberg. The inmates were required to end their calls by disclosing that the calls were paid for by the Bloomberg campaign, but they didn't say that they were calling from prison. His campaign denied being aware of any of this and said in an email response to The Intercept, "We didn't know about this and we would never have allowed it if we had." This shouldn't even be legal in the first place. And barely any mainstream media is talking about it. It's mostly only been covered by independent media. They're also not talking very much about the audio recording of Bloomberg defending his racist policing policies that was circulated earlier this month around stop and frisk. And he has been lying and saying that he stopped stop and frisk as soon as he found out that it was unfair, which is absolutely not true. He was ordered to stop and frisk by a judge. And in fact, there's audio of him very explicitly saying that you just go and target black and brown folks, young men, and chances are that you'll be able to get somebody with a gun, even though the overwhelming majority, over 90% of the people who were stopped during stop and frisk were absolutely innocent and hadn't done anything. So the other thing that maybe is related to why corporate media is not really covering all of Bloomberg's just horrible aspects is that they're directly profiting from his ads. He's spending a ton of money on ads, and all of the TV networks and radio are benefiting from that. And it's an unprecedented and obscene amount of money. And we've never seen anything like this before. So yeah, I mean, basically, MoveToAmend, our amendment, has two parts. The first part addresses corporate constitutional rights, but the second part addresses the fact that individuals should not be able to buy elections. And so everything that Bloomberg is doing right now, and I should say Tom Steyer as well, is against the principles of MoveToAmend and would be unconstitutional when the We the People amendment passes. And this isn't the first time that Bloomberg has tried to buy an election. When he ran for mayor 3 different times in New York City, he spent $267 million. His last race against Democrat Billy Thompson, because remember, Bloomberg has also been a Republican in some of those races. So Thompson only spent about $9 million. Bloomberg spent $108 million. That's 11 times more than Thompson. He aired an average of 42 commercials a day on New York television throughout the race. And it wasn't just, so this is what he thinks will work. And his experience is that it does. And so we want to make sure that people understand what kind of precedent we're setting if we allow billionaires to buy our elections. The other thing is that it's not just about direct contributions. Through his foundation, he has spent over $100 million a year in donations to nonprofits. And we're seeing that some of the endorsements that he's been able to cultivate are because he's made contributions to various aspects of cities. So some of the mayors that he's gotten, he's contributed money to not just their races, but also to infrastructure in cities, basically bribing mayors who are strapped for cash. And then he also has contributed money to congressional folks. Incidentally, he has the means and has certainly started to contribute a lot of money to superdelegates. So if the Democratic primary ends up without anyone having a majority plus one of delegates going into the convention, then it will go to superdelegates, which Bloomberg is making sure to donate a good amount of money to. So I don't know how you can make the argument that Bloomberg isn't as much of a threat to democracy as Trump is, in terms of just completely trying to outright buy the process. It's not just a distraction. His campaign is a very serious threat. It's a case study for the danger that billionaires can pose to democracy. So it's proof also that everywhere you look, American politics is awash with big money, including on the Democratic side, from think tanks to congressional campaigns to the culture of big philanthropy. The outside influence of plutocrats is everywhere, and many seem to regard it as normal, even, something that we can't do anything about, part of political and cultural life as as watching baseball, or being forced to pay a monthly fee to some blood-sucking corporate insurance conglomerate so that you don't die from a treatable disease. So that is the USA. But there's no reason why it has to be this way. Everyone at MoveToAmend believes that this culture can be abolished and changed, and we can go forward in a different way, which is why we put our hearts and souls and passion into this every single day. And we don't always know where the support is going to come from for MoveToAmend, but we're keeping on doing the work because it really needs to be done. We need the We the People amendment more than ever. Every passing day, every passing election shows us that this is true. And the reality is that we have had a tough time as folks have been focusing their attention on the election and sort of leaving aside or not putting as much energy or resources into these longer term fights that we absolutely have to win as well, and we have to make progress on in order to make it so that when we do get the kind of legislation passed that we need, like the Green New Deal or Medicare for All, or elect people who will support policies like that, which are supported by the majority of Americans and yet our government isn't doing anything about, we have to make sure that when we pass those policies, we also pass the We the People amendment so that corporations and billionaires cannot use their so-called constitutional rights against us and get those laws overturned through the Supreme Court, which we know has been stacked to support them. So that's why it's so critical that we move forward on the We the People amendment just as much as focusing on getting the right people into Congress and the presidency, et cetera, et cetera. So I hope you'll continue to support MoveToAmend. And I always start this off with kind of like, it ends up most of the time being bad news because it's corporate rule news, and what's kind of going on in the media in our world from a lens of MoveToAmend. So on to, speaking of giant billionaire jerks, we've got another one on our list, one of our favorites. Amazon threatened to fire employees who speak out on climate change. A group of Amazon employees say that the company has threatened to fire 2 workers for speaking out against the company's environmental policies. Marin Costa, a user experience designer who was one of the employees that Amazon threatened to fire, in a statement she said, "This is not the time to shoot the messengers. This is not the time to silence those who are speaking out." Amazon also threatened to terminate Jamie Kowalski, a software developer engineer, according to the Washington Post. And in the face of all this, an Amazon spokesman said that employees are, quote, encouraged to work within their teams and, quote, can suggest improvements to how we operate through these internal channels. However, Amazon employees have increasingly pressured the company to address its environmental impact. At Amazon annual shareholders meeting in May last year, thousands of employees submitted a proposal asking Jeff Bezos as CEO to develop a comprehensive climate change plan and reduce the carbon footprint of the company, but it was ultimately rejected by the board. So all of this to say that it's an example of how we know that corporations are able to exercise First Amendment rights thanks to the Supreme Court, but their workers, not so much. They don't have freedom of speech to even talk about the most important issue of our time without threat of being fired. Let's see. Looks like, how's Facebook doing now? Is it still really not working so well for folks? Feel free to say. I'm sorry. We had to do this kind of Plan C style, so I'm on the internet, both using my phone for Twitter and Facebook on my computer. And sounds like that is not going super ideally. So apologies to folks who are not able to hear so well. Like I said earlier, if you want to come try it over on Twitter, on the MoveToAmend Twitter page, then that might work better for you. Looks like there's folks who are with me here, and I'm not seeing any complaints that they're having any trouble. So let's see, another example of First Amendment free speech rights trumping our rights. U.S. internet service providers are suing Maine, claiming that forcing us, their customers, let's see, no wait, this is said in a confusing way that is not right. Forcing them, sorry. So Maine passed a law requiring the internet service providers to get consent from customers before selling browser history. And their argument, they've sued Maine, and the argument is that that's a violation of their First Amendment right. Their First Amendment right. Never mind our right to privacy under the Fourth Amendment. So the U.S. state of Maine is violating internet broadband providers' free speech, according to them, by forcing them to ask their customers permission to sell their browser history, according to a new lawsuit. The case was brought this month by 4 telecom industry groups in response to a new state-level law aimed at providing Maine residents with privacy protections that was originally part of the Telecommunications Act, but it was killed at the federal level by the FCC just days before it was due to take effect. And so Maine went ahead and passed that as a state law. And ACA Connects, CTIA, NCTA, and U.S. Telecom are collectively suing Maine's Attorney General and the chair and commissioners of Maine's Public Utilities Commission, claiming that the statute, passed in June 2009, quote, imposes unprecedented and unduly burdensome restriction on internet service providers and only internet service providers' protected speech, and that it's discrimination. They go on to say, Maine cannot discriminate against a subset of companies that collect and use consumer data by attempting to regulate just that subset and not others, especially given the absence of any legislative findings or other evidentiary support that would justify targeting ISPs alone. The basic argument appears to be that we should only provide the minimum protections that are available. Nothing above the minimum is apparently legal. States don't have the authority to protect our privacy rights because they are a violation of the First Amendment rights of internet service providers, which is nuts, although that is probably going to stand. The other thing is that let's see, ISPs have also contributed a lot of money to lobby to help make sure that this law doesn't pass at the federal level, which is why states are having to handle it themselves. And apparently the plan is to come after California and its new privacy laws next. So that's all very lovely. You're listening to MoveToAmend's monthly live report. I'm Caitlin Sabosi-Belknap, MoveToAmend's national director. MoveToAmend is the campaign to pass the We the People Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to make clear that corporations don't have constitutional rights and to get big money out of politics. You can ask me your questions. Anne is helping out, letting me know if there are any. And if you're listening to this report not live, you can also ask your questions, and we will answer them as soon as we see them. And remember that if you help us spread the word about this broadcast, we'd love to reward you with a t-shirt. We'll give a free t-shirt to somebody who shares this broadcast via Twitter using the hashtag MoveToAmend, and also somebody who shares it via Facebook and invites your friends to come join, again, using the hashtag MoveToAmend. So next, I want to give you some campaign updates from MoveToAmend. We're thrilled to announce that 4 new co-sponsors signed on to the We the People Amendment in the past month, which brings us to 72 co-sponsors. Our goal for 2020 is 75. So here we are ending February, and we're only 3 short. I hope that we can set a new goal and pass that as well. Big warm welcome to our new House allies, Representative Joe Neguse from Colorado, District 2, Grace Napolitano, I should have practiced saying that one first, Napolitano from California, District 32, Jared Nadler from New York, District 10, who's also chair of the Judiciary Committee, so that was an exciting co-sponsor to add. And welcome back to Representative Maxine Waters from California 43, who's been a co-sponsor in the past and came back on this Congress. If any of these are your representatives, please go and say thank you. You can @ them on Twitter or tag them on Facebook and thank them for being a We the People Amendment champion. You can also check out our full list of co-sponsors to see if your rep is already on board, and we'll share the link in the comments on this stream. And if your rep is not there, then make sure to pick up the phone and call them tomorrow. Urge them to stand up and co-sponsor House Joint Resolution 48, the We the People Amendment, to end corporate constitutional rights and get big money out of politics. So like I said, our goal for the year is 2020 is 75. We're still not even done with the first quarter of the year, and we're almost there. So hopefully by the end of March, we can get to 75, and then we'll set a new goal and keep going. So we can blow this goal out of the water again, which we have done the last several years, as long as we all help keep the pressure up. So make sure to call your rep if they are not already a co-sponsor. And thanks to everybody who worked to get those 4 co-sponsors in February. And also, we are still working on trying to get the amendment introduced in the Senate. We do have a senator who is willing to introduce it, but they would like 5 colleagues to join them, and one of those members to be a member of the Judiciary Committee. So that's what we're working on now, is finding this coalition of 6 total senators to get it introduced. So we have a really important task that we really need everyone's help with, calling our top targets, which include both the senators from California, Sheldon Whitehouse from Rhode Island, both of the senators from Hawaii, Tammy Baldwin from Wisconsin, both of the senators from Washington, Bernie Sanders from Vermont, both of the senators from Minnesota, John Tester from Montana, both of the senators from Massachusetts, Martin Heinrich from New Mexico, both of the senators from Oregon, Sherrod Brown from Ohio, Chris Van Hollen from Maryland, Cory Booker from New Jersey, both of the senators from Illinois, and Jackie Rosen from Nevada. So if any of those are your states and your senators, please give them a call daily. Ask them to commit to co-sponsoring the introduction of the We the People Amendment in the Senate. And you can also help us out by pressuring on social media, sharing and retweeting our posts using the hashtag The Time Has Come to ask them to co-sponsor and the We the People Amendment, and making sure that they know. And as long as she's joined me, we'll say hello. This is Lucha, who's looking for some dinner, since I'm about an hour later than normal since we got off to a late start. So I guess she's going to be here for this broadcast too. Let's see, other news from February. We had a historic hearing. The We the People Amendment was, there was testimony for the We the People Amendment for the first time in Congress earlier this month. It's been a decade since the Supreme Court's decision on Citizens United, and we all know that that paved the way for an ocean of unregulated and secretive campaign spending. So February 6th, we had our first ever opportunity to talk about our amendment as the strongest solution to corporate rule. And there was a hearing on in the House Subcommittee on the Constitution, Civil Rights, and Civil Liberties. So there was a hearing on 10 years since Citizens United, and Representative Pramila Jayapal gave testimony in favor of HJR 48, the We the People Amendment. So this marked a significant step in our ongoing efforts to build a critical mass of support for the amendment. To date, 20 states and over 1,000 towns and cities have officially gone on record in support of a constitutional amendment. The overwhelming majority of those, over 80% of those resolutions passed at the grassroots level, have been calling for the language of our amendment, the We the People Amendment, to address both corporate constitutional rights and money in politics. And so it was significant that we were part of that hearing, and we, appreciate, as always, Representative Jayapal for her leadership on this issue. And it is important that we get as many co-sponsors as possible right now, because that subcommittee of the Judiciary and the Judiciary Committee itself are looking at our amendment closer than they ever have before, and that's kind of where it would head next. And so we need as many co-sponsors as possible for when the time comes that it would go on to the Judiciary Committee. We don't know when that would be. We haven't heard any news that there's any expectation at this time to move either our amendment or the other amendment proposals to address Citizens United forward. We'll obviously keep you posted on that, but in the meantime, we need to focus on getting as many co-sponsors as possible. And also this month, Pramila Jayapal had a great article published in The Nation calling for support for the We the People Amendment as the best solution to systemically address Citizens United. So Anne will share a copy, a link to that article, and if you could share that around, that would be great. It really helps spell out why this amendment is so critical and why it is the best solution to address Citizens United, as opposed to some of the other proposals that really don't go far enough and don't actually address the reasons that made Citizens United possible in the first place. Coming up in March, on Wednesday, March 4th, normally our Take Action webinars are on the first Tuesday of the month, but we're going to do ours next week on Wednesday so that we don't interfere with Super Tuesday, because we know people will be paying attention to that and potentially doing last minute voting that evening. And so tune in with us the next day on Wednesday, March 4th. Our webinar will be on how to become a MoveToAmend advocate and other ways to get involved in the We the People Amendment campaign. These online trainings are an opportunity for folks to connect with MoveToAmend and learn about our organizing tools and campaign opportunities, and get connected with others in your area or in your state who are doing the work of MoveToAmend. MoveToAmend is a grassroots-led movement, and our success and growth depends on you. So we need your help, and we would love to get you plugged in through this new structure that we have, a new opportunity for people to come on as individuals rather than having to start a whole group in your community to get started just as an individual, as a MoveToAmend advocate. So tune in with us next Wednesday. And if for some reason that day doesn't work, if you have to work or something like that, or you have class, or you've got your kids, you can still RSVP and we'll make sure you get the recording. So the best way to make sure that you're plugged in to that recording as soon as we post it is to go ahead and RSVP for the live session. And what else? We've got more actions coming up. January 21st, we had a number of actions across the country in California, Ohio, Illinois, Minnesota, Montana, Florida, Washington, and New Mexico. Had sit-ins, rallies, film screenings, and presentations and lobby visits targeting their representative. So we're going to continue escalating things in May, because May 10th, 2020 marks the 134th year since the Santa Clara versus Southern Pacific Railroad Supreme Court decision, which is where corporate lawyers were first able to weasel their clients into the Constitution. So we're taking it up a notch for the whole month of May, focusing mostly on May 4th through 10th, culminating on that date of May 10th for the Santa Clara anniversary. So we will be holding educational actions and lobby visits and targeting our representatives, especially those who have been ignoring us or not responsive, that we've been working on for a long time. So you can get involved. You don't have to have any past experience. It's a great way to plug in. We'll be holding a kickoff call to begin the campaign for these actions in May, which again, we're focusing mostly on the week of May 4th through 10th, but we'll be doing things for the whole month of May. And that kickoff call is on Wednesday, March 11th. And Anne will post the link to RSVP to that to plug in, and we'll be holding those every other week through May to help support folks who are doing the action. So you can get started with us on March 11th, and we'll have materials and resources and ideas, but we also welcome your creativity and thoughts and ways that you want to plug in and highlight the need for the We the People Amendment in your community, wherever you live. I want to invite everyone to join the 28th Amendment Alliance. As I've said, this year is the 10-year anniversary of the Citizens United versus FEC Supreme Court decision, which is the day that MoveToAmend publicly launched. And for a lot of people, this decision was the first time they had ever heard of corporate personhood or money as free speech. But really, this wasn't the beginning of the story at all. MoveToAmend's founders had already been working on the issue of corporate constitutional rights for decades. I personally have been working on this issue for, this will be 19 years. And And we were prepared for the Citizens United ruling to come down the way that it did, which is why we launched MoveToAmend as a coalition of all of us who had been working against corporate constitutional rights. So we're not, campaign finance reform organization. We're a pro-democracy and democracy protection organization. 10 years later, we're the only organization with a solution that goes further than just overturning the bare minimum of Citizens United, but actually gets to the root of the problem, corporations having constitutional rights. And all of this is only possible because of support from folks like you. So joining the 28th Amendment Alliance is a request to get 28 new people, your friends and family, to sign the motion to amend, to offer their support for the amendment. We use that motion to amend as an organizing tool, but we also, whenever we do lobby both federal and state representatives, we take the list of petition signers in their district and let them know how many people are calling on them to support the amendment. So it's really important that we have as many people as possible signed on to that petition. So if you join the 28th Amendment Alliance, we're asking you to get 28 of your friends to sign up with you and to call your senators and representative on the 28th of every month, and we'll remind you. So we've got that coming up in just a couple days here. And then become a MoveToAmend sustainer at a monthly donation of your choosing. We suggest $28 a month. That's how much I give every month to MoveToAmend, but you can give whatever feels right and fits your budget. Everyone who signs up for the Alliance will get a starter kit, which includes a MoveToAmend t-shirt and button, postcard, and stickers. So you can sign up for our Amendment Alliance by clicking the link that Anne is going to share. And if you're not ready for that challenge, you can still support us becoming a sustainer in general. If somehow or other you don't know 28 people. But I bet you it wouldn't be that hard to do the extra pieces as well. So I hope everyone will sign up to do the full Amendment Alliance and join our team, and let us welcome you in with some goodies as a thank you for your commitment and support of the MoveToAmend movement. We're also asking if you've got stories of corporate rule happening in your community to let us know. We would love to help talk about all of the ways that the We the People Amendment would help address almost every other issue, and making these connections is part of what's so important to help people understand how critical this amendment is. So if there are stories of corporate rule in your community, please let us know. You can submit the story yourself using our guidelines, or you can just tell us about the topic and then we can write the story. So Anne will share the link for how you can do that. You're listening to the MoveToAmend monthly live report. I'm Caitlin Savosi-Belknap, MoveToAmend's national director. MoveToAmend is the campaign to pass the We the People Amendment to the U.S. Constitution to make clear that corporations don't have constitutional rights and to get big money out of politics. And remember, you can ask me your questions anytime during this broadcast, and Alfonso will make sure that I get them and I'll answer them at the end. But also, if you're tuning in to the report and not live and watching the recording, you can also ask your questions, and we will answer them by responding with a comment ourselves. Next up is our dispatch from the grassroots. I want to give shout outs to our affiliates. That's what we call our local chapter leaders and organizers who are all over the country, volunteers doing the work of MoveToAmend day in and day out, and making it possible for us to be the grassroots movement that we believe in. That's the only way that we've ever been able to amend the Constitution before. So it's important that we base our work in local communities where people actually live and can connect with this, and not have it be just some esoteric and historical, political thing that doesn't feel connected to them. So our affiliates are the ones who do that work every day, and we want to give a shout out to Portland, Oregon MoveToAmend for a fantastic action outside of the office of Senator Jeff Merkley last month. Our Oregon folks partnered with local indivisible activists during the 10th anniversary of the Citizens United decision, engaging in songs and chants while dressed as Supreme Supreme Court justices outside their senator's office. This is the type of artful action we hope to see more of, and we're really grateful for the creativity of our grassroots leaders in Portland, Oregon, and beyond. And if you live in Oregon, please keep up the pressure on Senator Merkley to work with MoveToAmend on introducing the We the People Amendment in the Senate, and Senator Wyden from Oregon as well. Shout out to our folks in Santa Clara, California, MoveToAmend, who successfully bird-dogged at 2 local political forums earlier this month. And between the 2 events, including a roundtable hosted by staff for recent House Joint Resolution 48, or We the People co-sponsor Anna Shu, our Santa Clara County, California MoveToAmend leaders were able to secure 15 pledges from candidates running for office, including from state Senate candidate Ann Ravel. Great work to the Santa Clara County folks, and big thanks to our affiliate leaders in Wayne, Pennsylvania, the Wayne Citizens Supporting Democracy, who have been working hard to secure organizational support in their rural community in Wayne County, Pennsylvania. They've been actively involved with our Interfaith Caucus, building support for our movement, most recently securing the endorsement from their local Unitarian Universalist congregation. So keep up the good work, Wayne citizens. Also want to acknowledge folks in Connecticut, who are not part of an affiliate yet, but my colleague Greg Coleridge, our outreach director, was at Yale for a rebellious lawyering conference, speaking with mostly young law students interested in doing radical and social justice law, and connected with dozens of folks there. And then in Connecticut, in New Haven, folks held a forum, and already we have the support of one of the labor organizations, came on as an endorser recently, who helped put on that forum. Looking forward to continuing to work with them. And then also shout out to folks in New York City who joined the lobby training that Greg did, and then scheduled meetings with their representatives, a few different representatives in New York City, to help get activity going in New York. So thanks everyone for all your good work. So that's the campaign updates. Like I said, though, I'm here to answer your questions. Again, I'm really sorry to the folks in Facebook who are having trouble hearing. My apologies. But I would love to answer your questions. So if you're asking them via Twitter and you're in Periscope, I can actually see them. So feel free to go ahead and type your questions right now. I'll scroll back through. I don't really see, I just see a couple things. Somebody asked where I am. I'm in Sacramento, California. That's where I live. Let's see, a couple other comments about Bloomberg. No questions back there. So if anyone's got any questions on Twitter, let me know. On Facebook, you can type your comments, and Anne will let me know if there's any questions there. It looks like I also might be able to scroll through. Sorry that this broadcast was so technically problematic. I blame Mercury in retrograde, because that makes sense to me. Looks like there's no questions. So, looks like winners for, I'll give it a couple more minutes just to see if there's any questions. But winners for the t-shirt and the oligarchy on Twitter, looks like you're it. If you want to send us a DM with your address and the size of t-shirt that you would like, we'll send it along to you as soon as possible. And Donald F, looks like you're our winner for Facebook, so same thing there. If you want to send us a direct message with your address and the size of shirt that you would like, we'd be happy to share that with you as thanks for helping to spread the word. And normally we do a MoveToAmend Hell Yeah moment, something that we found inspirational. Unfortunately, because of the way we had to do this broadcast, we can't just show the clip right now, but I do just want to give a shout out to earlier this month, 20 teenagers with Sunrise Movement were arrested at the U.S. Capitol as they took part in an action demanding senators back the Green New Deal. So MoveToAmend has been talking with our folks about how important direct action has been for every successful social movement in the history of time, and we wanted to acknowledge these young people from Sunrise who were willing to get arrested. Some of them, I think, maybe even younger than 18 years old. Included one 13-year-old who were part of a larger climate action of more than 150 middle school and high schoolers calling for lawmakers to either step up or step aside. So we found a lot of inspiration in that, and we won't be able to play the clip for you, but we'll share the link to it if you didn't see that story. It's inspiring and pretty badass. All right. I don't think the problem is the microphones, Darla. I think the problem is my internet, but I will take 10 microphones, sure. Or 5. We're going to have to figure out what we really could use is if somebody wanted to make a donation of, I think it was around $300, we could get some new software so that we can do this broadcast simultaneously and not have these kinks that we keep on having. So that's an opportunity for someone to help us do a better job with this right now. And even if you can't give $300 yourself, maybe you can pitch in some amount for that. And if everybody who's tuning in here were to give about $25, we would easily be able to cover that, especially if you count all the people who always tune in after the fact as well. We lost some people because we did this broadcast about 40 minutes later than planned. All right, well, it looks like there are no questions, so thanks to everybody for hanging with us. Apologies again, but we'll be here next month, and hopefully we'll have ironed out these kinks so that we can use this new system that we were trying and actually get the software on Alfonso's computer. The time for next month is March 25th. This is always on the it's always on the last Wednesday of the month, which is sometimes the 4th Wednesday, but sometimes the 5th Wednesday. So last Wednesday of the month, 5 p.m. Pacific, 6 Mountain, 7 Central, 8 Eastern. And I'd love to see you again then. And in the meantime, let us know if you've got any questions. You can always contact us at MoveToAmend.org. I'll have some exciting news next time. I found out today that it looks like we will be able to switch over our website probably by the second week of March. We had kind of a breakthrough on some stuff that was giving us trouble, and we've been working on a new website upgrade for quite a while, and it looks like we're almost there. So by March 25th, my hope is that I'll be able to be broadcasting this through our new website as well. So stay tuned for that. Again, info@movetoamend.org if you've got any questions, or you can DM us if you're on Twitter or Facebook. We'd love to hear from you anytime. And with that, I'm going to sign off. Thanks, Alfonso and Anne, for your help tonight. And don't hesitate to be in touch if you've got any questions for us. And in the meantime, please call your reps and do your work to help support the We the People Amendment. One of the main ways you can do that is by joining that Amendment Alliance. We'd love to see, everybody who's here tonight sign up to be part of that. So I hope you'll join us. All right, everyone. Have a great night. We'll see you next month. Bye-bye.